are still coming to my mouth.
Ready? Can we call the meeting to order?
7 feet. You could still build this house at 37 feet and not have it look the way this ordinance is going to make it look, and it would still be within the legal limit. If the height is the problem, according to the ordinance, we can build it something like it is. It just seems to me that the way that they configured the house maximizes their flood protection and utilization of the storage space on the lowest floor. I just don't see that we need to add an ordinance that limits anybody's ability to maximize their flood protection just based on the fact that we don't like the way that it looks. I mean, that's my thought about it. I mean, unless anybody can sort of explain it to me differently, that I don't see else what we're trying to legislate by changing the floor height.
Does anyone else have any comment on the bias?
The only comment that I would make to Tom is, while I agree that less ordinances is better, I think that it absolutely is our job to watch for the character of the town and to control how we build things. I think that's part of being in a community, and I think that's part of what our job is as a council, and that's why we have a planning board and we have a master plan.
And I think that we've done that by saying that 37 feet is the limit.
I agree.
Beyond that, I don't think we should be saying, well, I mean, like I said to you in the back room, like, what if I don't like ranches? We shouldn't have ordinances say that you have to have a second story. We're not a homeowners association. We shouldn't be dictating. I never think that it's, when the government starts saying, whatever the government is, even if I'm on that government, that they can define what is attractive, I don't want to hear it.
I agree with that to a point, but what about the opinion of the neighbors who came to us and forced to complain about what's happened in their neighborhood? Doesn't their voice deserve to be respected?
The main complaint that I heard was that it was too high, and if they had simply redesigned the house so that the ceilings on each floor were 2.5 feet higher, it would still be within the legal limits and just as high as it currently is. Not to mention that we're basing these ordinances on the fact that the flood protection that the government says that is enough is where you should build. And I don't know, they got it wrong the first time, that's why we had to change it for Sandy. I don't think that allowing people to sort of maximize that flood protection should be limited just because we don't like the way that it looks. I think, especially in this zone, that form should trump function. Function should trump form, I said that.
Going back to Sandy, when I was helping with emergency management, I went down there at the worst case things, and looking at what's built there right now and the way it is, I think it's inappropriate for the character of that area and the risks that are there, because you come to reasonable preparedness for what we can reasonably expect, and that's where the FEMA maps come from, and 3 feet over that is more than fair. Fair enough.
Great.
That's all I had.
Carrie, did you have any, unfortunately, I wasn't at the last planning board meeting, but did you have any conversation?
I was not present at the planning board, but I did speak to Dennis Collins, who's the planning board attorney. When the ordinance as introduced was sent to the planning board, it came back with some additional changes to it. Mr. Collins believes, and I agree with him, that these changes are merely just to clarify the language in the ordinance, and didn't change the fact that the maximum building height was going to be 37 feet. So I don't think that there's any problem proceeding with it, and Mr. Collins felt the same way.
Okay,
That's the only thing I would have to add to.
all right, thank you. Okay, does anybody in the audience have any questions in regards to this particular? Nothing? All right. Can I have a motion in a second, please?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
And that's a motion to close public hearing.
Right. Now can I have a motion in a second?
You got to vote on the motion to close the public hearing.
Oh,
I'm sorry, Mr.
Sorry about
Campion,
that.
Yes.
Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. Schuler,
Yes.
Mr. Golda.
Yes.
Okay, now can I have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 2015 Oh, wait,
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
roll call, Janine?
And that's as amended.
Yes.
Mr. Campion?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Nope.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Borbeck?
No.
Motion passes.
Ordinance number 2015-09, an ordinance authorizing a special emergency appropriation in the amount of $6,000 for the codification of ordinances in the Borough of Spring Lake Heights. Do we have any questions?
Mr. Borbeck is raising his hand.
Oh, yes, Tom. I'm sorry.
No, with this, he's with this, are we going to bid this?
This additional appropriation, or it's termed a special emergency appropriation, was the result of a quotation proposal that had been submitted. So it's actually an extension of a contract that had been awarded previously.
That's like 10 years ago, right?
It was about 8 years ago.
8 years ago, okay.
So there is not currently there is no new proposal. This is putting in place the funding. The award of that will happen once the funding is in place.
So we'll bid then?
It is the council's choice. We did receive the proposal. I believe the previous discussion on this, specific to that question, was that it did make sense to switch forces in the middle of the stream, that this work is a continuation of work that is already underway.
Yeah, I understand, but it was underway and paused for 8 years, right?
That's correct.
Any questions?
Anybody else? Does anyone in the audience have any questions?
I have a comment.
Want to come up front, please?
Cat Crippen 561 Atlantic Avenue. The work was paused, not because of anything that Coded Systems did wrong. The work was done because the council kind of dropped the ball, specifically legislation and grants. So I don't understand why Coded Systems keeps getting blame on this, when they would have been very happy to finish this project all along. And quite frankly, there was one other company that bid on this project when it originally went out. There really is like only one other place that does code large, and they didn't give you as much in the package for what Coded Systems was doing.
If you don't mind, and I'm not arguing, I have nothing against Coded Systems. I'm not suggesting that they did anything wrong. I'm not even suggesting they're a bad company. I just like the idea that you have bids.
There's not a lot of places that are going to bid this.
Thank you.
So with this $6,000, will we be able to complete this project?
That is the proposal. It was
Yes.
to bring it to current to July of this year.
Excellent.
This $6,000, is this consistent with the pricing from the original bid we had received? Is this an extension of that contract, so the pricing is in line with that?
It is, in fact, the quotation and proposal that was submitted by Coded Systems was approximately $4,000 a year to bring it current, and there was a substantial discount that brought us to actually about half that.
Okay.
Motion and a second to close the public comment.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Campion?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Borbeck?
No.
That's the, we're voting on to
Oh.
close the public hearing.
Yes. You guys can start.
Okay, now I would like a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 2015-109.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Roll call, Janine?
Mr. Campion?
Yes.
Mrs. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Borbeck?
No.
Motion passes.
Okay, we're going to open up the first portion of the meeting for public comment on anything that is on the agenda. Nothing else? Does anyone have any comments? Okay. Can I have a motion and a second to close the public comment section?
Make that motion.
I'll say.
All in favor?
Aye.
We don't have any discussion items. Council reports. Mr. Campion?
I have one announcement regarding the drought watch that has been going around. It does impact us on a voluntary basis. I'd like to read through what the watch has in it, just so it's out there. It is just a request to conserve. We're not at critical levels right now where it's an emergent issue, but if it continues on the trend we are with the weather, it could become a problem. So they're asking that you voluntarily conserve the use of water unnecessarily. The New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection has issued a drought watch for much of the state, including the coastal north region, which includes Spring Lake Heights. The drought watch designation is prompted by extremely dry, warmer than average weather over the past several months, which continues to drive up water demands and the consumption of water supplies at a faster than normal pace. A continuation of this summer's dry weather patterns threaten to impair the replenishment of reservoirs, stream flows, and groundwater. The Drought Watch announcement calls for voluntary efforts by the public to curtail unnecessary water use, especially outdoors for activities such as lawn and landscape watering and other water-dependent activities around the home. The public is encouraged to practice wise water use in order to preserve supplies. More drought-related information, including responses to frequently asked questions, can be found at the website njdrought.org. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wilbeck?
Nothing to report, Council President.
Okay, and I have nothing to report either. Mr. Sherwood?
I'd like to make one comment. There was a letter last week in the CoStar, letter to the editors, where one of our residents made comment on the Public Works Department, what a good job they were doing in town, maintaining the fields and the roads. I too would like to add that I feel that they're doing a great job, and they were well deserved with the letter.
Okay. Mr. O'Brien?
I don't have anything to report this time.
Okay. I would like to take the opportunity, though, to ask Rich Carragher if he would step forward and give us a little update on Veterans Day, which will be here before you know it.
Anyway, the annual Veterans Day luncheon is scheduled for November 11th at noon time, so Wednesday afternoon. It's at Doolan Shore Club. Usually it runs about 2.5 to 3 hours. It is completely complimentary for any resident who served in the military, whether it's in wartime, peacetime, anytime. Any resident who served in the military is invited to the dinner. You can leave your wallets at home, absolutely no cost to any veteran. It's funded by donations from businesses and private benefactors. There's plenty of fun, food, we have live entertainment. Anybody that's been there can attest to that. If anybody knows any veteran that wishes to attend or to help out in any way, please contact the borough office, Janine or Jay or anyone in the borough office, and take reservations, information. Again, it's November 11th, 12 noon at Doolan Shore Club.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you.
Did everybody read the reports and notices and correspondence? Okay. Tonight we have an ordinance to introduce, ordinance number 2015-10, an ordinance amending and supplementing section 7-12 entitled Handicap Parking of Chapter 7 Traffic. A copy of that is in our packet here. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Yeah, I'm very much in support of this. And this is part of my ignorance. I've been blessed and had the situation occur to me, so I'm very blessed. It says special vehicle identification cards. I know that they have license plates. Do you have to have a, does that mean that the person involved would also have to have one of those little placards too? Or does it cover either both?
Either a permanent vehicle registration or the temporary.
Sorry for asking a silly question, but I didn't want anybody to unnecessarily have a hassle, right? That's all.
Anybody else? I'll open comment from the audience. Anybody have any comment?
Mrs. King, this is just an introduction.
Okay.
Our public hearing will be set
Okay, that's
at
right.
our next.
Sorry about that, Janine.
That's
Okay.
We need a
Thank
motion to introduce that?
Yes, need a motion and a second to introduce.
I'll make the motion. This is for the handicap parking facility.
Right.
Second.
Mr. Campion,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. Schuler,
Yes.
Mr. Borbeck.
Yes.
Motion passes. So
And that date for the hearing will be at the next council meeting?
Right, which is October 13th, Tuesday, October 13th.
Normally, you can't.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along. Resolutions. We have Resolution 2015-151, approving use of the community center for the Girl Scout troop numbers 748 and 502, and also charity event on November the 7th of 2015. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Campion,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. Schuler,
Yes.
Mr. Borbeck.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Resolution 2015-152, approving change order number 1 for Alair Road and Ocean Road Parks improvements, decreasing the contract with Thor Construction.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, second.
Second.
How close is this contract to being completed?
The contract is complete.
Okay, so that's why the decrease was
What
there,
is it?
because we know what the final cost is.
This is, as it's indicated, there are final quantity adjustments. The bid is based on estimated of various components. The net effect is a decrease of some $7,000, which is about a 2% overall reduction in the contract amount.
So yeah, we're not voting to spend $340,000 today.
That's right.
We're voting to accept having to pay as much.
And this actually will close out the contract, and the final payment that incorporates this change is included on the bill list.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry, somebody made a motion already, right, and I interrupted them.
Yeah.
I'll second it if somebody didn't second it.
We have a second.
Did you
Roll
second?
call.
No, I was leaving it that
Oh,
way.
then Tom seconded it.
Mr. Campion?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Borbeck?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Resolution 2015-153. This is authorizing the sale of surplus items through usgovbid.com. Motion and a second.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Mr. Campion?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Borbeck?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Resolution 2015-154, approving payment of claims on the bill list dated September 23rd, 2015.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mr. Campion?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Borbeck?
Yes.
Motion passes.
And then Resolution 2015-155. This resolution is regarding the probationary appointment of Scott Dreyer as a Public Works Department mechanic. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mr. Campion?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Schuler?
Yes.
Mr. Borbeck?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, now the second public comment section of the meeting. If anyone wishes to come up and comment.
Sharon Batto, 1790 Beverly Avenue. My question and/or comment is about the school referendum that's going to be voted on tomorrow in Manasquan. I don't understand why we are not allowed to vote on something that could possibly, if it passes, we're going to be paying for this, the athletic field, I don't understand why a high school, I understand that the elementary school, the high school, they need improvements. But a 2,000-seat stadium for a high school for football, I don't think it's fair. What about people on fixed incomes? I think I gave it the office already out of my property taxes for the school here, and if this passes, I'm just wondering if there's any recourse, if the council is going to watch out and take care of us. I think it's absolutely insane. Who needs a 2,000-seat stadium for a high school? Not everybody is football crazy. You know, I just think that something needs to be done, spoken about in this. Talk to me, explain to me how this is allowed to happen.
Well, for one thing, I think probably, Sharon, the best thing that could have been done is for you to go to a Board of Education meeting and voice your opinion there first, because they do have a representative on the Spring Lake Heights Board of Education that represents this town down in Manasquan. As far as the referendum goes, we are powerless. I don't really think there's anything that we can actually do up here on the dais at this particular juncture.
And also, you know, I mean, there really haven't been in detail much information in the CoStar about this at all, till this past week. You know, they go into detail, $8 million just for the athletic field. And, you know, and it's going to come out of the sending districts as well.
As I understand it, it's going to be in like twofold. They're looking for a referendum this year. They're going to do another referendum next year because they're looking supposedly for a total of $36 million. Okay.
It has been discussed and been mentioned in the CoStar for the last year.
Yeah.
Well, I read the
I was just gonna say
CoStar
this is
every week, and only until last week did I really see it broken down. You know, and personally speaking, I haven't had a lot of time in the last year to go to board meetings, let alone council meetings.
Right.
And I mean, if you see something coming, you know, you guys are on the council, and you guys are involved, and Chris Tinkin especially, if you see something coming, I mean, it's just how much more are they going to take from us, and from seniors, and from people that don't have kids?
I
It's
think
just totally unfair here.
the small amount of power that our board representatives do have on their board, they did voice their, you know, opinion that they would not be voluntarily contributing any funds to that. But I mean, there's a strange school district in the situation in that, like, the sending districts, I think, are 70% of the students, but don't have 70% of the representation on the board to make those votes. So, you know, I don't know what their recourse is, but it does seem to me that, you know, it is a little bit of a taxation without representation situation that, like, if we're going, I mean, in the end, we're not going to be paying 70%, but still, we should have some say in this.
I think it's a frustrating scenario, especially when we up here, and I'll speak on behalf of all our counterparts, that we work very hard to keep no tax increases from the municipal end, and then we get blindsided with something like this that's completely beyond our control. We control a very small, and as taxpayers in town, we all feel the same thing. That's why we work so hard to keep our taxes down and to keep our municipal spending at zero, so we didn't have an increase on the municipal level this year. And then when things like this happen, they're totally beyond our realm. We can't control county, we can't control school. So what we can control, that's what we stay on top of, and it's very frustrating.
Yeah, it is, and I don't understand what 2,000 seats have, and a football field have to do with education. You know, not every child is a football job, you know, and I don't know, it's just crazy.
Well, I can tell you this, I have talked to some of my counterparts in the other towns. Many of the other sending districts do not want this to go through. There are even some representatives in Manasquan that sit on the council that don't want it to go through. But unfortunately, you know, as Chris just said, our hands are tied. And it's a very, very difficult situation to be in because we just can't seem to control it. And it's not fair.
It is not fair. And then my other questions were, do we have any plans for the 2 lots that just sold on Highway 71, sort of directly behind us, where the antique store and the red houses.
I have only heard rumors that the plan is for somebody to put single-family homes in there. That's the rumors I have heard. I haven't heard anything or seen anything formally submitted.
Okay, and as I understand it, if they don't ask for variances, they don't have to contact the people who live within 200 feet?
They wouldn't have to, but my understanding on the structures as they are, I believe they were sold as is, and I don't think they could be inhabited without substantial work. So either way, we would be involved for renovations. We would be aware of what's going on. So at some point, there will be an answer.
And doesn't the planning board have to review the plans regardless?
Absolutely, and they would need to see, if they don't change use, they don't need to go first.
Yeah, just so that it's clear, absent a variance request or re-subdivision or a commercial site plan, if it's simply being developed or redeveloped with single-family homes, there's no planning board review unless there are variances involved, in which case it most likely would be a zoning board of adjustment application. But depending on how the development moves forward, or the reconstruction moves forward, there may or may not be any municipal review other than building permits.
That's what I was referring to. Sorry, I said planning board, I meant building department.
So there's no like plans filed where one could come and look at the architectural drawings or?
Not to my knowledge, nothing's been filed yet.
And to my knowledge, it's just gonna be 2 new homes.
And finally, I'm wondering when the discussion is going to be here about setback changes? 5 foot from 5 feet to 2 feet? I hear that that's something that's being discussed.
Yes.
When will it be discussed here at the council or the planning?
You have to go to the planning board.
It doesn't come here first?
No.
Okay.
Comes from the planning board to us.
All right,
And it hasn't come back here yet.
gotcha. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks. Anybody else? Okay, if no one else has anything. Anybody have anything up here on the dais? Okay, no other comments? Can I have
Great job.
a motion and a second to close the public comment section?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion and a second to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
That's right. I never know. See, if I stay quiet, then it gets awfully quiet for a while, and then if I jump right in, everybody else is.
Barry.